So we'll go ahead and jump into it, beginning on the topic of college. So most things that parents think about and students think about when they're deciding on where to go to college are great things. But there are two things that we have noticed that a lot of students and parents aren't taking into consideration when they are thinking about which schools they want to spend the next 4+ years of their life at. And you know, those two things that we'll start off with are the people and the opportunities that students are going to be surrounding themselves with in their time that they are there. And that question might sound simple enough, but hopefully you'll see as we talk about some of the other topics in college, how it applies in ways that you might not be thinking. And you know, one thing that we commonly hear that prompts this question is parents thinking that, you know, one school is teaching the same material as another school. So what makes this school better than this other school? And maybe it's not. Maybe it's not a good extra use of money or time or other considerations, but sometimes it is. And you know, it does really matter. The culture, which is mainly made up of the students and the caliber of the students that they are surrounding themselves during their time that they're there. And one specific area that this applies to is dropout rates. So this is the most depressing thing that we're going to talk about tonight. So it will be much more uplifting when we go beyond this. But I think it's important enough to talk about, not because it applies to probably any of your students as far as whether or not they're at risk for dropping out of college or not. But it is important to think about as far as the caliber of the students and just being mindful of these numbers and what it might affect in your decision-making process. So I'm going to ask everybody a question, and you don't have to answer this question out loud. I just want everybody to think about this question. It's going to be actually 3 questions, and then we're going to talk about it a little bit just to see where you're framing things right now. And those 3 questions are, first, what would you guess is the success rate / dropout rate of students who start college? What percentage of students who start college actually graduate from college? And then we'd ask you that same question for community college. What would you guess is the number of, or the percentage of students who start at a community college who graduate? And then the third is, what is the percentage of students who test into developmental classes who will graduate? So just think about those 3 numbers, and I'm going to give you the answers. And all of this information is from educationdata.org. So if it doesn't ring true to you, I hope that you will investigate it on your own because it is depressing. The first answer, what percentage of students who start college will actually graduate, is 60%. So 60% of students who start college will actually graduate, starting at a 4-year college, the national average. Obviously, every school has different amounts, and those are things that we encourage everybody to look up. But the national average is that 60% of students will graduate a 4-year degree within 6 years. The answer to the community college number, if they started a community college, is that only 40% of students who started a community college will graduate from any degree. So that means 60% of students who started a community college will not graduate. And the last number is what percentage of students who test into developmental classes will graduate. And the answer to that question is that 25%, only 25% of students who test into developmental classes will ever graduate from any college. This doesn't have a year metric on it. That means 75% of students who test into a developmental class will never get a degree from a post-secondary education. So I am obviously a huge proponent of community colleges. I think that they are an incredible tool. I am the product of a community college education. So I'm in no way speaking bad about community college. I think it is an incredible opportunity for students who didn't do the right things in high school to have a second chance at life and education. But because of those numbers, it does give us some hesitation in recommending doing the 2 free years of community college. Mainly, if nothing else, just thinking about if the environment of the students that you're surrounding yourself with and surrounding the opportunities that students are being surrounded with in those 2 years are the best use of those 2 years and worth the money that you save. And you know, where every situation is different, and a lot of them, it makes a lot of sense. This is just something that we hope that families will consider when they are making that decision. And then when they're making the decision of a 4-year college, of also deciding and thinking about the caliber of students that they're going to be surrounding themselves with, and if that's going to be conducive to where they are at in their caliber. Is it going to be challenging them and helping them grow? And, you know, there are lots of ways to do that amongst every school that students do attend. You know, the honors program is also a great place to increase the density of the caliber of students that your students are going to surround themselves with in the time that they are at college. But all of this is just something that we've noticed that many students and parents aren't spending enough time thinking about in their consideration of where they go to college, that we hope that more will. So that's the most pressing topic we'll talk about. Now we're going to jump to some other things on the topic of college. We have 2 more things on the topic of college. And these are just some pitfalls really that we want to warn parents about, not because they happen a lot, but because when they do happen, it's devastating. So the first thing is graduating early. All right. For some students, graduating early makes a lot of sense. But one mistake that is devastating that some parents learn too late is they'll graduate early in December, and then they'll enroll at a community college for the spring, and then they, you know, will apply to their college. But the problem is that if you do that, you are then viewed in the eyes of your 4-year college as a transfer student and not a freshman student. And therefore you are often not eligible for the freshman scholarships at that school. So just something that we have seen the devastating side of from parents over the last 9 years that we thought worth sharing for any on the journey. The best option, you know, we think if you're wanting to do that route is instead of graduating early, just take dual enrollment classes and AP classes so that you're still getting the college credit. But yeah, so next, we're going to talk about applying early. So applying early to, you know, early decision to some of these schools. Yeah, so early decision. You know, if you are trying for a competitive school and you're worried about getting accepted, early admission is great. And for most schools across the country, doing early decision is just not going to change anything. But some research has shown that for students applying early decision, some schools will offer less scholarship money than students with the same resume and background who apply regular decision because they know that you want to go there. So if scholarships is a priority, you might just want to do your research on if applying early, you might be losing some opportunity for scholarship dollars if you do that. So just something to consider when you are in that phase of the admissions process. So this, these are the main things that we want to talk about on the college stuff. Nothing crazy on there.